Hello, Liberty lovers. Welcome to AxXiom for Liberty. Today is May the 10th, 2013. I, of course, am Kaye Beach, and right alongside me here is my sidekick, co-host, Howard Houchen. We come to you live every Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. on logosradionetwork.com.
Right off the bat, we're going to have David Love and Colin Henderson. You may remember them. Oh, gosh, Kaye, what was it, a couple of months ago or something like that? We brought them on to kind of give us some updates on what was going on at Narconon, Arrowhead, and Narconon in general. And I think we had Lucas Catton on. Now, Lucas is the ex-president. He was the president of Narconon Arrowhead, who decided for one reason or another that, what's happening here isn't right. I am going to leave. And basically, I'm going to tell the folks around the world what exactly is going on with Narconon, their definitive links to the Church of Scientology, some of their the process and the what they go through in the rehab and trying to get these folks off of drugs or alcohol or whatever. And it's just absolutely atrocious. There's been, I think, 7 deaths in 7 years. Is that right, Kaye?
Well, there was a spate of 3 deaths in a row, and that did definitely have something to do with Lucas Catton, who had already left Narconon and Scientology. It definitely had something to do with him deciding to come forward. And by the way, he's getting a little pushback on that now. As we know, our Scientologist friends really, really like to make you a target when you start running your mouth. So watch out, Howard. They're already coming to get you, though. So I don't know if it'll make any difference.
Come to Southeast Oklahoma all you want to. You're not going to get anything accomplished.
It ain't going to happen twice.
No, it's not. But we're going to bring them on. And we had an incident, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. We had a little incident here in my little hometown of Hugo, America, to where Narconon, and a gentleman by the name of Nico Bain, who is he presents an anti-drug program, what drugs do to your body. He works for Narconon. They came to the junior high here in Hugo. I learned about it from my 12-year-old son. There was no notification of two parents of this, and but anyway, we're going to bring Colin and Colin Henderson and David Love on to talk about Narconon, why they make a very concerted effort to get into schools to give this little presentation, and we're going to learn a lot more about Narconon this afternoon.
We're back. You're listening to AxXiom for Liberty, Kaye Beach and Howard Houchen, and right now we are going to talk to a couple of good friends of ours and returning guests, and that would be Colin Henderson, based here in Oklahoma, and David Edgar Love, based in Canada. And as I said, they are returning guests to AxXiom for Liberty, and these are guys that are some of my favorite activists, very, very good activists. And what they're doing is they are helping to expose the deceptive and dangerous practices of Narconon and thus Scientology. Colin Henderson, if you don't remember, sought help for his addiction at Narconon Arrowhead a few years ago. That is a drug rehabilitation facility that is located in Canadian Oklahoma. It was back in 2007 that Colin visited that facility, and he quickly, like a lot of others, became a critic of Narconon for their practices, which he says are both deceptive and dangerous. David Love is originally from British Columbia. He was both a client and a staffer at the Narconon Rehabilitation Facility at Trois-Rivieres, or Three Rivers, which I believe is now defunct, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe David Edgar Love may have had little to do with that. Like I said, tireless activist. Awesome. But Three Rivers, that's where David was at. He was there for a while, and he eventually left in disgust, taking with him, smart man that he is, masses of documentation on the fraud and abuse at Narconon in Three Rivers, that facility. This was back in 2009. And it was in 2012, April 17th, 2012, that the Quebec health officials ordered the Narconon in Three Rivers to close, saying that Narconon's methods were both dangerous for the patients and violated Quebec's health and safety criteria governing rehabilitation centers. These guys have been extremely busy. We have a mess of a Narconon and Scientology facility here in Oklahoma that we're working very hard to do something about, and they are reaching their little tentacles out, as Howard indicated earlier, into our schools and just everywhere they can, all for the purposes of recruiting for the so-called Church of Scientology and filling their coffers with money at the expense of lives, young, beautiful lives that we've witnessed here in Oklahoma. Colin and David, welcome to the show. So good to have you back.
Thank you for having us back, Kaye. I know me, I always look forward to any opportunity to inform the public from deceptive practices in the secular world.
Yes, that's right. You guys have done good work, and we'll launch into the happenings in poor little old Hugo, Oklahoma, where Narconon's reaching all the way down into the schools and trying to get a hold of those chillins there. But first, I'd like you to update us on some legislation that you've been supporting and working on. You have done a great job informing the legislators here in Oklahoma. And if people don't realize, and I'd like you to say something about that.
Okay. Well,
Colin, you have reached out to the legislators and informed them, and that was not easy, but has it been worthwhile?
In the long haul, yes, it has been worthwhile. Unfortunately, lives were lost.
Yes, because you started trying to educate them long before we had the spate of 3 deaths in 9 months. And it is unfortunate that it took that to get their attention. You were working on this before those deaths happened. You knew that was going to happen. You knew.
It wasn't just me. There was many of us that knew that it's inevitable. This is somebody is going to lose their life there, and it's happened in the past.
Right.
And I applaud Senator Ivester out of Sayre, Oklahoma, and Representative Jason Murphy out of Guthrie, Oklahoma, for authoring and Representative Murphy co-authoring Senate Bill 295, which is now, I guess it was called Stacey's bill for Stacey Dawn Murphy. She was the last victim that lost her life there in July of last year. But now we can say that that is no longer Stacey's bill, that is Stacey's law. Governor Fallon signed it into law. I believe it was Tuesday afternoon.
That's right.
So there was a
press release that came over to the wire.
Yeah, within that press release, Senator Ivester says something very, very important, and it's a lot of language was added into this law, and one key term was making sure that recovery center was added into this law, because that is one of the ways that Narconon was sidestepping the rules and regulations with the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health Substance Abuse Services.
And this is a point worth making. The point of the bill, Narconon had pulled various tricks, which we've talked about before on the show, as do a lot of little special interests, manage to get little special tricks pulled and little loopholes pulled so that they can avoid regulation or oversight. And that is exactly what happened at Narconon. They managed to pull a couple of tricks, escaping the power and oversight of the state authority that has authority over these sorts of things, which in this case is the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, there's still some questions there in my mind about why this department wasn't exercising as much authority as it
Absolutely. That's a good point to bring up. I got something very key for that.
Okay. But that's what the bill did. And so it closed a little loophole there. And, far be it from me to be begging for more government regulation and oversight. However, at the end of the day, the government does exist to protect our life and our liberties. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And so this bill was narrowly tailored to close that loophole.
Yes.
And it was signed into law. And it would not have happened, even with the deaths, without activists like Colin Henderson and David Love getting that information and education to those legislators to show them exactly what's going on. They don't have time to be the sleuths. You guys spent so much time sleuthing out what happened, why not have oversight, how are they getting around it, and you passed that information on, and you stayed on them.
And it was not just David and I. If I had to put a number to it, I'd have to top of my head say somewhere over 9,000.
No, and that's the really awesome thing too. It's definitely a group effort that there's a great number of people that are very concerned about this issue, and a great variety of people that are very concerned about this issue that have worked together in a way that I find absolutely inspiring. And as you know, I've had a show on that before. We'd like to see more groups work together that will, despite their differences, make strengths out of what is a weakness for us now, and that is the diversity.
That's right. And, all these groups, when you really get onto a common target that needs to be exposed. We said, Kaye's under the weather, and, we're talking about the bad bugs, running through Oklahoma. I know down home, have a lot of people that have been suffering from it. But if you really think about it, in my mind, there's a huge bug that's been going across the nation and across the country. And it's a wicked bug, and it's called the cult of Scientology.
That's right. That's right. And there's a whole lot of people in this country, out of this country, from every walk of life you can imagine, putting whatever skills and talent they have together.
Yes.
to inform people. And Howard, we got about a couple of minutes before we go to the break, but I'd like, you want to go in and tell us basically what happened at your son's school down in...
I can do this, hopefully, before we go to break. It's fairly quick, and this is really one of the reasons why we asked David Love and Colin to come on. As a matter of fact, the first person I called, let me kind of give you a background. We were sitting at home. This was, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday afternoon. We had probably been, my kids are home. My wife and I were sitting there in the living room just doing what normal everyday people do. The kids are arguing back and forth. And all of a sudden, Jared, my youngest, turns to me, and Jared's a pretty bright kid. He pays attention to this stuff, and he goes, "Hey, Dad," he goes, "Narconon came to our school today," and I was so shocked, and I actually thought he was joking with me, because he's well aware of Narconon. He knows what's going on, and I said, "No, Jared," I said, "You're kidding me." He goes, "No, really. A guy named Nico from Narconon came to talk to us about drugs today." I was shocked. I mean, my jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe it. I know that Narconon has been kicked out of schools in Oklahoma. They've attempted Purcell was one of the school districts that they tried to get into. The parents, the administration got together and they said, "No, we're not going to have this." They got the truth out and everything. I immediately called Colin Henderson. And told him what was going on. After that, I called, the superintendent of schools here in Hugo, the Hugo ISD. She researched just a little bit, and immediately said, "Oh, Howard," her words were, "Oh, Howard, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this." I've talked with some school board members, and Colin, you're going to be, and David, all I said was Narconon to one of our school board members, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. I used to run a Boys and Girls Club in McAllister, and we banned them from coming in there." So he knew about it. Narconon is very deceptive and uses trickery to get into these schools, and it's time for it to end. And that's what we're going to talk to David and Colin about, and they're going to give us some information on why they're doing it, and we're going to talk about how we can stop Narconon from coming into our schools. You listen to AxXiom for Liberty. We'll be right back.